Hello everyone, welcome to I Am Aware, News, Faith, Opinion, Debate, and Truth. Today, I'm going to go ahead and get to something that's happened recently. It's a small thing, but it's actually kind of some prophecy in the news kind of stuff. A lot of people make videos saying there's prophecy in the news and all this, and I think a lot of times what you see is storms and earthquakes and floods and wars and all that, and it's something that people tend to talk about constantly when you talk about the end times and all this stuff. People talk about wars and rumors of wars and disasters in these diverse places and all. But, when you actually look at that portion, of the scripture where that's being done, where they're asking Christ, what will be the signs of the end, that's kind of like the precursor. Like, he's saying, hey, look, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars and all kinds of disasters all over the world, but don't worry about that. That's got to happen. That's going to happen. It's part of life. Now, here, let me tell you about what it's going to look like in the end. So, I really kind of think he's trying to tell people that's always going to be around. That's a part of humanity, whether it's just because we're just such little bastards or whatever. It's part of life, right? It's just, it always has been. You can go through history. You can go through right now, recent history, ancient history. There's pretty much always been wars and rumors of wars and all kinds of natural disasters, just all over the place. It's part of it, It doesn't mean you shouldn't kind of perk up and try and see maybe some deeper understanding or some kind of maybe reason from above why things might be happening, but it doesn't mean that it's the end of the time, always. So, just kind of a note. And so this one, compared to, the just hour and a half long videos people put up of just unbelievable disasters and stuff going on, just clip after clip of stuff like this, I guess that's entertaining. It's pretty wild to see. You can put some just crazy dramatic music over the top of it, and wow, boy, does it look crazy, right? But that's not what we're doing today. Today is kind of a small thing, but it is potentially significant. Okay, so from my standpoint, the way I look at things, and there's a lot going on in the Middle East. The Middle East, of course, being a fairly focal point of, pretty much the entire Scripture, for the most part. You get a little more into Rome and all that, too, more near the end, but for, the majority of Scripture is pretty much all Middle East, and in that area, and dealing with those people, so, and it continues through the end, even, it's part of it, not to say that there's not a whole rest of the world and things going on, but that's just where the focus is on this, it's following the one, people and that bloodline through to, if you're a Christian, going from Jew to Christian, it follows that on through to God coming in the flesh to do his part here and kind of make up for all of our crappiness, right? So, it's pretty well focused there, and there's a lot going on in that region. There's always a lot going on in that region. Again, it's one of those things like, there's wars in the Middle East. Is it the end? No, it's Tuesday, okay? It's like, there's always something in the Middle East. They're fighting and warring. It's pretty common. Has been, again, for a very long time. Through most all the history you can go back and look at, it's pretty common. It's part of it. But right now, it's extra unstable and all, given the things that have happened over the last couple decades or so especially, but I mean, you can go back through, back at least to what, the 70s, with the Shah of Iran and the overthrow there and the hostage crisis and all, at least since that point, it's just been complete chaos for the most part, So, right now, just as in right now, as in like the last couple weeks, you've got things kind of going on in Syria. Biden has called an airstrike in Syria, which was kind of out of the blue, to be honest. I mean, you're mostly done there. Now we got an airstrike there. But, and there's rocket fire. Okay. And now that's into Iraq, where we still have American troops. Which, given what we've had 3 presidents in a row now who have at least at some point talked about we need to get the troops out of Iraq, and the war was declared over, and boy, we still got a lot of troops there, isn't that something? But yeah, so there's apparent rocket fire coming in from Syria into Iraq now at bases where American troops are. And so there's been an American response to that, and then I think we've upped troop numbers in Afghanistan again. Is that, I mean, either we have or we're going to, whatever, So it's just a lot of weird things going on there, a lot of potential problematic kind of things, But for right now, my main point today, my main focus on this, and that actually translates to something in the end that's relevant to the end, is, I think, this whole deal with Saudi Arabia. And this is not really a news story. It's the Washington Post journalist there is allegedly killed, allegedly by people that allegedly work for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And I say allegedly a lot because, looking at the actual statements that were made in the document that supposedly lays out all the evidence America has gathered and this intel, this document that's come together that's been declassified now, for the most part, that's basically how it talks. We assume this happened because we think this guy's got control, and we don't think they would act without his knowing. So we assume that he ordered it, and we think maybe he threatened people to do it. I don't think in what I've seen of that document so far that there's one solid statement that's we know this and this happened. Which is not ideal, especially when you're taking kind of what has been a long-time alliance, maybe not the best of alliances, but it has been a long-term alliance, and now you're going to mess with that and start upheaval, throwing things over, and just, it's a weird thing to take a lot of speculation, more or less, and throw a long-term alliance out the window over it. So it's weird to, why this would happen, and I'll tell you why I think this is important. Largely when you look at prophecy, when I look at prophecy, I like to look at Daniel because it lays it out really super well there by the end, talking about the split and the divide and the North and the South Kingdom and all these kings that come around. And, it lays things out pretty well. It talks about the 4th kingdom that rises in Persia, right? The one of Darius being the first that was there at that time, and that went through to Xerxes and all that crap. Then you had 2 others, kind of in the middle. There were other periods where other people kind of came in and ruled over them, the Greeks especially, I think. But, there's been 4 Persian or, Iranian kingdoms kind of rise up in that area and in that region from there. That is them leading the area, not being led by somebody else. And I know I always forget the names and mess them up when I do them without them written down in front of me, which I don't have. Good for me. But it's the Parthenon, I think. Maybe. That's the first one. That's Darius. That's what's there while Daniel's talking to them. And then there's the... oh, man. I just really don't remember right now. Doesn't that suck? Anyway, there's 2 more kingdoms after that. Again, you can research that yourself. I'll probably go into much deeper and more direct and correct details of all this in a later video. But I'm just kind of grazing over this right now, you know. So it's just... There's that kingdom. There's 2 more in between. The next thing that rose up, you know, around the 600s or so, that dropped the Caesarian or something along those lines, the Caesarian Empire or whatever. The thing that toppled that and kind of took over and is still there today is an Islamic kingdom, right? So, okay, and not that Islam completely started there, but it is the kind of leading ideology there now. Has been. It was the 4th thing to rise up since the time of that prophecy, and it's still there. And if you look at it, it talks about this great kingdom being divided in the north and the south. And if you look at Islam throughout the Middle East today, it's pretty well divided between the north and the south, right? You have the Persians, the Iranians kind of in charge of the north. They're kind of that king of the north, and they kind of rule over the Shiite divisions and sects of Islam. And then you've got Turkey over there too, and they're kind of outside the box, and I'm not sure where they're going to end up, how that's going to play exactly. They're kind of starting to move in, kind of making some moves, but I don't know. We'll just have to see how that turns out, right? But, you know, you've got Iran in the north, and then in the south you have Saudi Arabia. You have for years. These two have really disliked each other, and Saudi Arabia, of course, kind of being the head of the Sunni sects, and, you know, the different groups that are more in the southern nations in the Middle East there. So, you know, the Saudis have ruled over the south, the Iranians ruled over the north, and I think it goes back at least to the Cold War, you know, where the Soviets started kind of supplying Iraq and Iran, and America kind of backed the Saudis, and that kind of turned into a smaller little Cold War in the Middle East, and that went back and forth, and of course Iraq and Iran attacked each other, and, you know, it's been chaos, but we kind of still have that set up today. You know, Eastern powers are still kind of linked to and kind of backing Iran. Western powers have still been kind of supporting Saudi Arabia, and of course America has sold countless weapons and such to the Saudis over the years for, you know, millions, billions, who knows how many dollars over the years. But so that's kind of been the setup of things. When you look at the end, and it's not really just Daniel, you know, when you look through most all of the kind of end time prophecy and stuff, Saudi Arabia is really, really, really absent. You know, not as absent as, you know, like some other countries we know of today, that, you know, it's like America. Where's America in the end? Well, unless America's in Syria or something, you know, I don't think it's mentioned. So, you know, and again, at this point, it may not be around at all. Who knows? But a lot of problems going on around the world. But anyway, so, you know, the Saudis aren't mentioned much, especially to be a country that's right there. And I mean, I don't know how much reflection there is on here, but, you know, Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, kind of right there in the mix. You know, then you have Egypt here. It's all right there. I mean, it's Saudi Arabia is almost right in the middle of all this stuff that's going to go down, supposedly, prophetically, right? And it's weird how little it's mentioned it is mentioned slightly. So it's not like, well, they must have called it a different name or something. It is there. They do talk about Arabia, just not very much. I think there's parts of Ezekiel that talk about it drying up, and basically kind of just becoming a desert, which it is. And then again, it's one of those things. Well, did you mean before? Is that why it is that now, or is this going to happen again? And who knows? It may not be necessarily like drying up as in water. Of course, the Saudis' major deal, of course, is oil. Maybe that dries up, and then suddenly they've got nothing. But in the end, they're just not mentioned a lot, and the rulers of the South are constantly referred to still as Egypt, who is kind of semi-allied with Saudi Arabia as part of those southern groups, even though they're in a hell of a spot too. Ever since the Arab Spring in America decided it would back all these different groups and people kind of overthrowing governments and killing all these other Arab nations that they had worked with. I mean, you knock out like Gaddafi, in Libya, and what was it, Mubarak, I think, in Egypt at that time still. So, helped kind of push both of them be overthrown and killed, and Egypt, instead of just going totally crazy, they had some bad stuff. They had the Muslim Brotherhood take over, and then the military came in. They're like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is going too far. We're going to kind of rein this stuff in. And that was during the Obama years still. And once that happened, the United States disavowed them as a country, basically, and do not recognize them as a sovereign state. And to my knowledge, they still don't. I don't think Donald Trump overturned that, and I certainly wouldn't think Joe Biden would, since he was the vice president during the O'Biden. That's a good name for him. The O'Biden years, I think now these are the Biden years, so it's like a continuance almost. But yeah, during the Obama years, of course, Biden was vice president, so probably not going to change there. But so you look at that prophetically. It's one of those big things that I always look at when people go, "Oh, it's the end is coming." That's one of the big things. I'm like, look, Saudi Arabia is still a major player. If we take this how it's written, they're not by the end. So something's got to happen there. And that could take who knows how many years. Now, what's happening right now could be the first steps of that. I expected that, as the West kind of declines and goes through this whole ridiculous pattern of chaos and craziness it's going through, I figured, it would pull back a lot. It would drop most of its allies for the most part. And the Saudis would kind of be left on their own. The Eastern powers would still back Iran, and either, the Islamic world would kind of say, hey, the West is on its knees, let's stop fighting each other, and let's really go after the great Satan and finish him off for good. And maybe that's part of that alliance of North and South that ends up blowing up and not working. And maybe that blowing up means literally blowing up, and Saudi Arabia doesn't really make it through that. So, I mean, there is a little bit of part to thought there, but at the same time, it could very easily just be the Saudis lose all their backers, and the Iranians do not, and the Saudis don't really make it through that, So maybe they're wiped out. So, and this could really be part of that. Like I said, I expected that to happen more as the West kind of degraded, but if the West is going to start breaking ties with them now over this one assassination, then maybe that's already starting. And look, I'm not saying it's great. Okay, they killed an American resident who's a journalist and all. I get that. Well, again, allegedly, because your evidence of that is pretty crappy. I mean, somebody killed him. But it's one of those things, when a journalist gets killed, it's like, you got your hand in so many places. You make enemies. If you're doing your job well, you're probably making a lot of enemies and probably a lot of powerful enemies. So to just say, well, it has to be this one group because this is one of the biggest people he's upset, that doesn't necessarily mean it was them. But now that I'm defending them, it just seems weird for the West to completely turn and start saying, you know what, our relationship is kind of over, or it's definitely changed now. They they behead people for a halftime show at sporting events. It's not like brutality and killing has turned the West away from the Saudis in the past. So, it is kind of strange that this one incident is such a big deal, And the America and the West has used the Saudis and, to really manipulate oil prices around the world and everything. There's a deal there. There's a lot of back and forth. It's a long-standing kind of deal, and they work together and all this, and suddenly it's straining. It's hard to say exactly what it was. They were talking the other day about Joe Biden was going to make an official announcement about it. And I don't know if he didn't make it, or if he stumbled over the whole thing and they couldn't play it, or he said the wrong country. I don't know. I was waiting for that. I never saw the press conference. I've never heard an audio clip of it during, news break-ins on the radio. I haven't seen it on the news. I haven't seen it scrolling at the bottom of the news, whereas, about the only place you can find actual news. I've seen nothing of it. Again, not able to do my full extent of research and everything here, but, you'd think there would be some mention, and I waited, and I put this video off to wait for that and hear what they were going to say, and I just never heard anything, so I don't know. So it's hard to say how far it's straining, but the fact that it's happening, that they're pointing it out globally, our relationship is changing and things are, getting different, that's still a big deal. That's a large-scale kind of posturing. And so it could be important. It could mean a big-time change there. But you really got to look at why. Like I said, it's a long-term deal. They mix up the oil markets. They're kind of, you produce a lot, you drop the prices, you kind of cut back, you say, oh no, Iran's attacking us, they're doing something, you raise the prices, And we just went through this, just a few years ago, this whole back and forth with Iran, and questionable attacks, really, on some accounts, and it was all led off by an oil war where the Saudis started producing oil like crazy and basically sent it into negative territory, where you had to pay people to buy oil, which was insane. And then they completely flipped it back, because of potential tensions with Iran, and then the prices went back up, and it's just this whole thing, so I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, with all the back and forth and all the stuff, all the little manipulating and the arms sales and all this stuff that America and the West gets from that relationship, why they would suddenly be pulling back from it. But I do kind of look at something else. It's something I've written about a little bit lately, talked about a little bit. In the West, throughout the Western world, there's kind of a turning. The left, especially after 9/11, kind of seemed to take on Muslims as one of its victim groups. Like, people are upset with the Muslims because of 9/11, which, it's understandable, Of course, people did a lot of stupid things with their anger and everything, but still, you can understand people being upset at the group as a whole, that's, you can say it's an ignorant way to be, but, we're people. We have feelings. They don't always lead us in the right direction necessarily, right? So, but anyway, so, the left kind of had, oh, no, we have to defend them. Oh, these poor people, they're hated so much. And that went on for a while. But, you know, at the same time, everything the far left pushes all the time is really kind of counter the beliefs of, you know, Muslim people, you know, even moderate Muslim people. So, you know, and any people, again, of those big three faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So, it's been a weird relationship between the left and, you know, Islam, I guess. And now maybe that's what's turning. You know, Joe Biden's kind of signed an executive order and everything saying LGBTQ plus has to be a part of every diplomatic thing done by America and all that. You know, I'm taking big steps towards social liberal agendas and everything, right? And that really doesn't go well, especially in the Middle East, you know, where, yes, you know, homosexuals are, you know, prone to being thrown off buildings or beheaded or something, you know. I mean, it's part of the culture there, you know. You can like it, you can hate it, whatever, but it's, you know, it tends to be part of it. You know, they're still strongly set in their morality, you know, their version of morality, whatever. So, maybe that's finally breaking. Maybe that's where this split is, that, you know, they finally decided, you know what, we're done with this, we're done with all of you stupid people believing in this God that goes against all of our crazy, depraved, whatever the heck we want to do, you know. And so, it's causing a break. And so now, yeah, it's just, Saudi Arabia is kind of going to be one of the first fall guys on that front, maybe. So, you know. But again, that kind of leads to something else. And I'm going to put out some videos on the pandemic and all that crap soon. But I shot them before this, so I already know. By the end of the last one there, it kind of got into this, and so I figured I'd mention it here because it kind of has more to do with it. You know, you've got so much pushback against really all faiths right now. Or, you know, at least especially all three of your main, you know, monotheistic faiths from the Middle East there. Of course, again, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There's a lot of pushback there. You know, I mean, it's supposed to be the same God. We all say, okay, you know, we all believe we're worshiping the same God in there individually. So, you know, and we all have very similar rules and laws from God, right? So, you know, when they keep pushing this extreme social liberal agenda, you know, you start wondering, you know, how far does this go? Because now they're saying basically, you know, we're not going to work with anybody who doesn't accept our agenda, who doesn't accept these things and all this that they're pushing now. You know, we're not going to work with you. We're not going to recognize you because we have to push our agenda first. That's going to be the first part of diplomacy even now, is pushing this agenda. And, you know, and that's abroad. You know, that's not even talking about what they're doing at home and the censorship and again, just all the newspeak and the kind of things like that. The 1984-ish style things going on between social media and government actions and laws, not just in America, but throughout pretty much all the Western world at this point. There's a lot of weird things going on, a lot of all faith, all religion kind of laws and things that are starting to kind of worm in. And again, you know, in France, it's something I talked about a little bit. They're kind of saying, oh no, we have all this Islamic terrorism, and they're making rules to combat it, which, you know, I'm sure some Christian conservatives will be like, oh yeah, you know, but then you look at it and it's like, yeah, you know, all people of faith, we got to look out for them, you know, we got to watch those people, they're all potentially dangerous, you know, and suddenly it's like, wait, What happened to the part where you're looking for the terrorists? Now it's just anyone, of general faith. And so, a little problematic. Things are getting a little weird, a little tense. The fact that you're not even allowed to say things in your own home now that go against this. And, you wonder how long does it go before it's basically like it is in China, where, they're putting Muslims in prison camps and they're calling Christians an evil cult and putting cameras in their churches to make sure they're not saying things that they shouldn't, I mean, how far away is the West getting from that? I mean, if you're home, if you can't say what you feel or what you believe in your own house, what the hell's a church to them? Why can you say or hear anything there that goes against their new morality, in this modern age? So it just really makes you kind of wonder, how far is this road going, How far are we going down this little path before things get really rough for all of us? And and it really does make me think, again, I was here for 9/11. I'm old enough to have some memory of that. And yeah, I understand. There's a lot of back and forth and war and hatred between the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim faiths. There's a lot there. You can't deny that. You can't say it's not there. There's wars between Christians and the Jewish country over there, and all the Muslim countries, or a lot of them, not all of them, but and a lot of the extremist Muslims, of course, they'll behead and kill Christians and Jews. So there's a lot of fighting there. Again, I'm not saying that we're just all going to be peaceful and things will be great, but you do kind of start wondering, does there come a point where we have these three religions that are similar? As much as we're different, we're very similar in what we believe and what our base principles are. And it's just, if most of the rest of the world is basically going to take the position of, we have a new idea, we have a new morality, we don't believe in your God, we don't want any of your laws, we don't want any of them remotely present in our society, and frankly, we don't really care to have you people who believe in a God and all these things. And, so maybe only, one of us should keep going on. And we're going to try and rout out all you people of faith, How far does that us versus them thing go before maybe all the people of faith have to be like, you know what? Maybe just for a little bit we need to put our differences aside and get through this. Because if it's only going to be the, secular, neo-pagan, crazy, ridiculous Western ideals that are coming forth, or, pretty much all people of faith, it doesn't necessarily have to be us that gets wiped out in this situation, right? So you can take a stand and fight back, again, legislatively, for the purposes of social media and these videos, but, you defend yourself. You stand up to them in nice, peaceful means and ways, and don't let yourself be eradicated, I mean, there's so much hate between these groups, but maybe we can stand together a little bit, maybe, and get through this. I mean, I don't know. It's just something I keep thinking lately with everything going on and with all, most all of the countries around the world kind of turning in this direction. Definitely the Western world. What are you going to do? Are you just going to sit there and be wiped out? Have them eradicate you and put you in re-education camps and stuff like that? Or are you going to stand up and say, no, we're not going to be silenced? And try to work together to some extent. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But, so, and again, even that stuff, you could say it kind of maybe goes into prophecy. I will say, if you do believe, then of course you look at prophecy throughout the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim faiths, clearly we're all still around by the end, so they don't get us all. I don't know if they're around, but hey. So, I'm just saying. We've got way more we're leaning on than they do. So screw them. Anyway, so just saying. But we'll see how all this turns out. And this could be a big turning point. This could be finally one key thing that really starts pointing towards now we are getting to the end. And I'm not saying soon. I'm not even saying, to an extent where I'm going to live to see the end. It could still be another 50 years, another 100 years plus. You don't know. We don't, we can't say for sure. We really don't know how long this is going to be, how long this process is going to be dragged out. I mean, obviously, since the idea of an ending was considered, people have said, this is it, this is the end, right? So, you're always going to have those calls, but I don't think we're there yet. But this is maybe the start of a step towards at least one of those big key factors that differentiate where we are now from the kind of world, from what we can see of it through prophecy, where it is in the end. And, Saudi Arabia no longer being a power, the kind of head of the Sunni South falling back to Egypt, this could be the start of that, because Egypt's still standing. Again, they're in a rough spot. They've got a lot of stuff. People coming over through Libya. They're fighting people off there. They're fighting people in the Sinai. They're kind of surrounded by some of these a little more extreme groups and everything. But they're holding on. So who knows? Maybe they maintain and the Saudis do not. We shall see. We shall see. But it just seems like this could really be a turning point, a start of something. And that, to me, is actual prophecy in the news, not just random wars or earthquakes or floods going on around the world, as they always have and always will. But this is something actually as something kind of getting to where you're looking at a change towards what the world looks like come the end. And the way they're getting towards people of faith, you could start saying, well, hey, how far are we from being imprisoned and beaten and killed for the name of God and everything, right? It's not looking great, but again, you know what? That's not something that's going to be entirely new either, to be honest. Sadly, that's happened quite a bit through history as well. So, anyway, but again, and I will say, Jewish people, Christian people, and even Muslim people, you know what? Stand up for what's right. Stand up for our common beliefs and laws and truths, and maybe we can get through this all right, But definitely stand by your beliefs. Stand stronger in them. Pray for them. Again, times of potential chastisement and judgment and all this stuff coming down the west. Be sure and pray and repent. Get yourself right. Hopefully as many people around you as you can. Maybe can form kind of a, remnant kind of area and survive it and get through it. And who knows how big that could be. It could be a small group. It could be a whole city like Nineveh in the book of Jonah, or, maybe a whole state, maybe a whole country at some point. I wouldn't expect a whole country like, the size of the United States to maybe pull through all that and make it through. But, there's a lot of smaller countries over in Europe and stuff. Maybe a couple of them will make it. You don't know, maybe. So, again, we'll see all that whenever we see it as well. I mean, I'm not going to try and sit here and say how long it's going to be. It does look closer all the time, though, with the crazy things they're doing. It seems like the decision to drive off the cliff has been thoroughly made. Now we're just waiting to go on over and hit the bottom, right? So, anyway. But yeah, so for those of you of faith,
really try and live by it, stick by, those laws. And again, I'm not saying go out and start killing people who go against it. I'm saying you go out and live by the laws of your God to the best of your ability. And repent of the things you have been doing wrong, and including, things you do wrong in the future, because you screw up. It happens. It's part of it. We screw up, we clean up, we get back on track. It's just part of the game. So, I guess that's it for now. Going to go ahead and wrap up. That's it for today for all of you. Thank you for, almost said for reading. That would make sense. Thank you for watching. And again, as always, as much as I hate to make these little pandering remarks at the end, it is necessary in the current climate of social media and all. Please do hit the like buttons, the share buttons, if there's anything in this, even a tiny part of this that you thought, gave you something to think about, or you liked, or anything. I do really, truly hope you'll share it, because they do not want to let people be heard anymore. Even fairly moderate people are getting pretty hard to find and hear, because it's just, they're kind of throttling back everybody for the most part, so every like, every share, every comment even is extremely important and helps a lot. So thank you very much for all those. If you're on the YouTube, I hope you'll hit the subscribe button, ding the little bell there for notifications. Again, I'm not going to blow up your feed, maybe a few videos a week, tops, probably more or less, so not a huge deal there. Same thing with Facebook, maybe a post or two a day if you're on there. Like us, follow us, and check under the following tab, and be sure and hit see first, because I can almost promise you it's the only way you're going to see us ever, is if you click that. And you will not see all our posts. I know from experience. I own the page, and I clicked see first, and I still can't see all my posts pop up in my feed, so it's ridiculous. But anyway, anyway, we do what we can. So all help and following and liking and sharing and commenting is extremely welcome. Again, even if you disagree, that's absolutely fine. It's why there's debate in my little subheading of the page. It's part of it. Opinions, debate, it's all good. Talk it out, whatever. Anyway, so yeah. And I guess that'll do. So, thank you all again for watching. Hope you have a good day. Hope you enjoyed. And thanks. Much love. God bless. I'm out.